My name is Adrian, and this is the story of how loving someone more than they love themselves can turn into the slowest kind of heartbreak, the kind that doesn't shout, it erodes. Back in our early 20s, Mara and I were that couple, the kind people pointed to and said, "That's what it looks like when it's right." We were inseparable in a way that didn't feel clingy. It felt like alignment. Late-night drives and empty highways. Coffee that went cold while conversations ran hot. Two people who made the world smaller by finding each other. When we got married, it felt inevitable in the best sense of the word, like finally putting a name to something we already were. We had plans that stretched past calendars, travel, building a life that looked like us, maybe a family when the season made sense. For a while, reality matched the outline. Meanwhile, I was building a business from the ground up. Long hours, early alarms, a stack of risks neatly labeled necessary. Even then, no spreadsheet outranked my wife. No matter how crowded the day got, evenings found time for us. Small surprises, spur-of-the-moment dinners, sitting still enough after a long day to actually hear each other. I made sure she knew she mattered, not once in a speech, but 100 different days in 100 small ways. At first, she met me there. She was proud of what I was making, loud about it in a way that made the work lighter. She was my champion and my familiar place. Then the edges started to shift. It was subtle at first. I need more me time. I want to focus on myself. That sounded healthy to me. No one should disappear inside a relationship. I supported it. But the language moved. Putting myself first went from self-care gym sessions, books, quiet to a policy. Doing what she wanted without looking left or right at how it landed in the middle of us. She stopped trying. Plans became optional when they were ours, urgent when they were hers. She stopped asking about my day, but somehow the expectation stayed that she would be treated like the axis the house spun on. It felt like she wanted the benefits of marriage with the responsibilities set aside. I told myself it was a valley in the landscape, not a map change. So I did what men who want to preserve their homes do. I tried harder. If something upset me, I brought it up calmly. If it turned into escalation instead of repair, I swallowed it to save the day we still had left together. I leaned into gestures, flowers, her favorite perfumes, the designer handbag she'd pointed at like a star months earlier. Reminders that I was still here, still choosing her. She'd say thank you without the light in her voice that used to be there. A tight smile, eyes already drifting back to the glow of her phone. Then came the language of distance disguised as wellness. I need space. I need to find myself. I believed her, or I tried to. So I stopped pulling and stepped back. She went out more. Nights stretched. Group photos replaced check-ins. I told myself growth can look like silence before it looks like something we recognize. Months later, that story didn't fit. She became the main character in a movie where everyone else existed to hold the camera. I began to feel like a background extra in my own house, there to be helpful, not to be loved. And the subtext got louder. She deserved better. Being with me was settling. Hearing it without hearing it hurts in a specific way. When you love someone who no longer values you, your head starts doing math it shouldn't. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm the one who's small and doesn't know it. I lay awake enough nights to learn the pattern of traffic outside the window and tried to locate the pivot point, what changed, and when did I stop being enough? Deep down, I knew. You can't rescue someone who is sprinting toward a version of themselves that doesn't include you. Then came the night that put a period at the end of a sentence I'd been refusing to finish. I waited up, watched the clock lurch from 1 minute to the next, listened to cars roll by. She was late. She was often late. But something about the waiting felt different that night, like my body already knew the line was coming. The door opened. I exhaled a breath I didn't know I was holding. She stumbled a little. Alcohol arriving before she did. Bag on the couch. Shoes towed off like the floor offended her. I didn't want to fight. I didn't have the energy to be the villain in someone else's script again. Sophie. No, I didn't use her name like a warning. I used it like a plea. Do you see what you're doing? This isn't about coming home late. You're pushing me out of a life we built together. I've been patient, but this isn't how a married person shows up. She rolled her eyes so hard it looked like a practiced move. Then a smirk, a laugh that didn't sound like joy. Oh, please, she said. You think I need you? You really think you're special? Plenty of men want me. If you leave, I'll replace you the next day. I felt something tighten in my chest and decided not to show it to her. She straightened, like a grand declaration was due. I'm done living by your rules. I'm done living by anyone's rules. This is my life, and neither you nor society is going to tell me how to live it. I'm in my baby girl era now, Adrian. Either deal with it or don't. That was it. That was the door closing in a sentence. I didn't argue, didn't yell, didn't beg a person to choose me over the mirror they were in love with. She had declared who she was. The following morning, I called the best divorce attorney I could find. I wasn't looking to punish. I was looking for a clean exit. No kids, no desire to litigate furniture or rehearse pain in a conference room. Papers moved fast. I didn't show for the final meeting. The representation did the work, and when the ink dried, I did what I promised myself. I disappeared. No calls, no texts, no long last message that tries to turn a breakup into a lesson. I went quiet. At first, it seemed like relief lived on her side of the city. Her social feeds turned into a highlight, real friends, bars, captions about new beginnings, and knowing your worth. She re-entered the dating scene like a swimmer arching off the blocks. Men lined up because they always do when novelty is the product. Attention arrived, but it wasn't the kind that stays long enough to learn a last name. The men who chased wanted a night, not a plan. The men who wanted plans weren't the men she wanted. I wasn't there to watch, and I didn't make it a hobby to keep track. But news travels in a world with mutual friends. Relationships rotated a few weeks here, a month there. Nothing that made it past the first argument intact. The attention she'd once floated on started feeling thin. Confidence cracked at the edges where it takes pressure first. For the first time, she was alone. Not for reflection, not for choosing herself, but because she had pushed away the one person who had chosen her on purpose every day. Meanwhile, I had a choice about what to do with the empty space. I could have filled it with bodies and noise. I could have made distraction my brand. I could have pretended the best way past a loss is to outrun it. I didn't. I turned toward the life I'd been building before I started shrinking inside it. I threw my engine into the business, not to hide in it, but to rebuild something that didn't depend on anyone else's applause. It took. We grew in ways I'd once thought were 5 years out. Revenue followed discipline. Doors opened that had been shut when I was too tired to knock. I took my body back, too. The gym wasn't about mirrors. It was about feeling strong again when I'd felt small in rooms that were supposed to be safe. I ate like my future mattered. I slept like rest was not an indulgence. I told myself the truth. Some people will never appreciate what you bring, no matter how much you offer. I refused to let loneliness sell me a story that ends with me running back to familiarity or forward into something that felt the same with a new face. I learned to be alone without being lonely. I got good at my own company, and in the space where I'd once collapsed myself to fit someone else's idea of enough, I flourished. Years went by like they always do when you're not checking the calendar to see if you're still standing. Then, one afternoon in a department store, I turned a corner, and the past stepped in front of me holding a shopping bag. Mara. She looked almost the same if you scanned from far away. Up close, time had traced the story. It does that for all of us. Adrian? She asked, voice testing the distance between us. I nodded and smiled the way you do when you meet a ghost in a public place. Hey Mara, been a while. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the way she always did when she was nervous, and said, "You look different." "Life's been good," I answered, and let the silence do some of the talking. She asked the catch-all questions: how I'd been, what I'd been up to. I answered casually without giving her the blueprint. After a few minutes of small talk, she tried the door everyone tries. "Maybe we could catch up sometime?" "Yeah, maybe," I said with a smile that didn't move the conversation. Days later, a message landed. "Hey, it was nice seeing you." I waited. Then I replied. From there, a slow drip of words filled the old channels. Nothing deep, nothing sharp. A breadcrumb trail of nostalgia leading back to rooms that no longer exist. I won't pretend I felt nothing. You don't shut off love like a light. But love isn't enough without the things that hold it. Respect, trust, the willingness to show up when it's not easy. A few weeks later, she suggested dinner. Just to talk. For a second, a younger version of me said yes. Then I asked the only question that mattered. What would I be trying to get? An apology? An explanation that tries to make math out of what was obvious in plain words? A second try at fixing what was broken past repair? I realized none of those would land the way movies tell you they do. I didn't need her to hand me closure. I needed to keep the one I'd made. So I said no, without bitterness, without ceremony. I don't think that's a good idea. It took me a long time to admit how broken I was by the end. Not just because she left, because of how small I let myself become while she practiced leaving. Unworthy, replaceable, never enough. I tried to outrun those words by making more money and stacking more hours under a barbell and surrounding myself with people who didn't need my story. None of it moved the weight in my chest. So I did the thing I had once told myself wasn't for me. I went to therapy. It felt strange at first, handing a stranger the pieces I'd kept in a dark drawer. But week by week, the mess started to look like more than failure. I wasn't stupid for loving her. I wasn't weak for wanting to save my marriage. I was a man who gave his heart to someone who couldn't hold it. And that isn't an indictment. It's a lesson. Healing didn't happen in a montage. It happened in small moments. Sleeping through the night. A day without checking her page. A morning where the first thought wasn't a replay. Finally, I burned the last bridge. Not with fire, but with finality. No more texts. No more what-ifs. No more letting nostalgia pick the lock after midnight. Before I deleted her number, I sent a last message, true and plain. I wish you the best. People say the only way to move on is to get even. To prove with results that they lost something irreplaceable. Here's what I learned. Revenge is a poor investment. The best revenge is no revenge. Just moving on. Growing past the version of yourself that tolerated what hurt you. Becoming someone your past self would be proud to meet. And then letting whoever needs to watch from a distance. That's what I did. If this landed somewhere true for someone, tell me how you handled your version of it. And if you're standing where I stood, quietly breaking while the person you love tells you they can be replaced by mourning. Know this, you're not fragile for feeling it. You're not foolish for trying. Just don't confuse loving someone with abandoning yourself. The day you stop lying to yourself is the day the ending stops being a failure and starts being the first, honest sentence of your next chapter.